Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Pod English for Everyone. I'm John, and I'm really happy you've decided to spend part of your day learning English with me. No matter where you're listening from, whether you're walking, driving, cooking dinner, exercising, or simply relaxing at home, thank you for joining today's episode. Today, we're going to explore a topic that almost every English learner thinks about at some point. Why can I understand English when I read it, but not when people actually speak? Or maybe you've asked yourself another question. I know a lot of English words, so why do I still struggle to have a real conversation? These are very common questions. In fact, almost every learner experiences the same frustration. The good news is that becoming fluent isn't about learning thousands of new words. It isn't about buying another grammar book. And it definitely isn't about studying for 5 hours every single day. Real fluency is built differently. It grows through small habits, regular listening, simple conversations, and daily contact with the language. Today's episode combines all of these ideas into one simple system. By the end of this lesson, you'll understand why listening is different from reading, how daily habits make your English stronger, and how to keep conversations flowing naturally without feeling nervous every time someone asks you a question. But before we begin, I'd like you to remember one important thing. You are not listening to understand every single word. You're listening to understand ideas. If one sentence feels difficult, don't stop. Keep listening. The next sentence will probably make the meaning clearer. This is exactly how our brains learn languages. Little by little, step by step, piece by piece. So, take a deep breath, relax, and let's get started. One of the biggest mistakes English learners make happens before they even press the play button. They choose material that is simply too difficult. Imagine someone who has been learning English for 6 months. Instead of listening to a short podcast made for learners, they decide to watch a fast action movie with actors speaking quickly, using slang, jokes, and different accents. After 15 minutes, they feel disappointed. I understood almost nothing. Then they begin doubting themselves. My English isn't good enough. But here's something I'd like you to remember. The problem usually isn't your English. The problem is choosing material that's far above your current level. Learning works best when the challenge feels achievable. Think about going to the gym for the first time. Would you try lifting the heaviest weights on your very first day? Probably not. You'd start with something lighter, something you can control. Language learning follows exactly the same principle. Your brain needs challenges, but it doesn't need impossible challenges. Instead of searching for the hardest English you can find, search for English you can mostly understand. Maybe you recognize 70 or 80% of the words. Maybe you don't understand every sentence perfectly. That's completely fine. Your brain is already working. It's making connections. It's guessing meanings. It's recognizing patterns. And those patterns are much more important than individual words. This is why listening regularly is so powerful. Every time you hear English, your brain becomes slightly more familiar with its rhythm. At first, English might sound incredibly fast. Words seem connected together. Sentences feel impossible to separate. But after listening to the same speaker several times, something interesting begins to happen. The speed doesn't actually change. Your ears simply become better at recognizing familiar sounds. Imagine listening to your favorite song for the first time. Perhaps you don't understand every lyric. After listening 10 or 20 times, however, you suddenly notice words you never heard before. The song hasn't changed. You have. The same thing happens with English. The more often you hear natural conversations, the easier they become to understand. Another mistake many learners make is believing they should constantly find new content. Every day they search for another YouTube channel, another podcast, another teacher, another app, another course. They think changing resources will help them improve faster. But sometimes the opposite is true. Staying with one podcast for several weeks allows your brain to become familiar with the speaker's voice. You learn their pronunciation. You recognize their favorite expressions. You become comfortable with their speaking rhythm. Suddenly, listening feels much easier. Not because English became simpler, but because your brain learned what to expect. That's exactly why consistency is so important. The goal isn't to hear thousands of different voices immediately. The goal is to train your ears gradually. Now let's imagine something together. Suppose you listen to the same short podcast 3 different times. The first time, maybe you only understand the main idea. That's already a success. The second time, you begin noticing expressions you've heard before. A few sentences suddenly sound familiar. During the third listen, you start hearing small details that completely escaped your attention before. This simple habit teaches your brain something very important. Understanding isn't instant. Understanding grows through repetition. That's why you should never feel disappointed after listening only once. Real progress often appears during the second or even the third listen. And there's something else I'd like you to remember. Many learners believe fluent speakers understand every single word they hear. That simply isn't true. Even native English speakers occasionally hear unfamiliar vocabulary, technical language, or expressions they've never heard before. Do they panic? Not at all. They continue listening. They focus on the overall message. They use the surrounding information to understand what the speaker probably means. That's exactly what successful English learners do as well. Instead of chasing every unknown word, they follow the story. They follow the conversation. They trust that understanding will become clearer as they continue listening. And surprisingly, most of the time, it does. Now that we've talked about listening, let's look at another important question. Why do some people study English for years but still don't feel fluent? The answer may surprise you. Fluency isn't built during long study sessions. It's built during ordinary moments that happen every single day. Many learners believe they need to feel motivated before they practice. They wait until they have lots of energy. They wait until they have plenty of free time. They wait for the perfect moment. But here's the truth. The perfect moment almost never comes. Some days you'll feel excited to study. Other days you'll be tired after work or school. Sometimes you'll only have 15 or 20 minutes available, and that's completely okay. Successful learners don't depend on motivation. They depend on routines. Think about brushing your teeth. You probably don't wake up every morning asking yourself, do I feel motivated to brush my teeth today? Of course not. You simply do it because it has become part of your daily life. Imagine if English became the same kind of habit. Not something special, not something difficult, just something you naturally include in your day. Maybe you listen to a podcast while making breakfast. Maybe you review a few expressions before going to bed. Maybe you describe your morning while driving to work. These activities don't feel overwhelming. They're small, simple, easy to repeat. And that's exactly why they work. Your brain loves repetition. Every time you hear a familiar sentence, your brain recognizes it a little faster. Every time you repeat a useful expression, it becomes easier to remember. Eventually, you stop translating. Instead, you begin thinking directly in English. This doesn't happen overnight. It happens because you keep showing up every day. Another powerful habit is creating your own English environment. Many learners believe they need to move to another country before they can become fluent. Of course, living abroad can help, but it isn't the only solution. Today, English is everywhere. You can listen to podcasts while walking, watch short videos during lunch, read simple articles before sleeping, change your phone to English, follow English creators on social media, listen to music with English lyrics. Little by little, English stops feeling like a school subject. It becomes part of your everyday life. The more often your brain meets English, the more natural it feels. That's one reason children learn languages so effectively. They aren't studying grammar all day. They're surrounded by language. They hear similar words every day. They hear familiar sentence patterns again and again. Eventually, those patterns become automatic. Adults can learn in exactly the same way, not by copying children, but by giving the brain regular exposure. Another thing I'd like you to remember is this: don't always search for new material. Sometimes learners think, I already listened to this podcast, so I need something different. Actually, listening again can be even more valuable. The first time you listen, you understand the main idea. The second time, you recognize useful expressions. The third time, you begin noticing pronunciation, rhythm, and small details you completely missed before. Repetition isn't boring. Repetition is where real learning happens. Think about your favorite song. The more often you hear it, the more lyrics you remember. Nobody complains about listening to a favorite song many times. The same idea works with English. Every repetition makes the language feel a little more familiar, and familiar language becomes fluent language. Now we've talked about listening every day. We've talked about building strong habits. But there is one more skill that separates confident English speakers from learners who still feel nervous. That skill is having real conversations. Have you ever experienced this? You meet someone, they smile and say, "Hi, how are you?" You answer, "I'm good, thank you." Then they ask another question. Maybe, "What do you do?" Or, "Where are you from?" You answer again. But after that, silence. Your mind suddenly becomes empty. You know English, you know vocabulary, but you don't know what to say next. If this has happened to you, don't worry. It happens to almost every English learner. The good news is that conversations aren't about speaking all the time. They're about sharing the conversation together. One of the easiest ways to keep a conversation alive is by becoming curious. Instead of thinking, what should I say next? Ask yourself, what can I ask about what this person just told me? Let's imagine someone says, I started a new job last month. Many learners simply answer, oh, nice, and the conversation ends. Instead, you could ask, what kind of job is it? Are you enjoying it? Was it difficult to start? Do you work from home or at an office? Notice something important. You didn't change the subject, you stayed on the same topic. That's exactly how natural conversations work. People don't constantly jump from one subject to another. They explore the current topic before moving somewhere new. Here's another example. Someone tells you, I love traveling. Instead of saying, me too, you could continue by asking, what's your favorite country? Do you usually travel with friends or family? What's the most beautiful place you visited? Where would you like to go next? Suddenly, the conversation has many possible directions, and none of these questions are difficult. They're simple, natural, and most importantly, they're based on genuine interest. Another useful technique is listening carefully to the words people use. Sometimes the best answer is simply building on what they've already said. Imagine someone says, I'm studying medicine. Instead of immediately talking about yourself, you might answer, medicine, that sounds challenging. How many years do you have left? What made you choose medicine? Do you enjoy studying it? By repeating the main idea before asking another question, the conversation feels connected. It also gives your brain a few extra seconds to think. This is a small trick that many native speakers use without even realizing it. Repeating part of what someone says creates a natural rhythm. For example, I've just moved to a new city. A new city? That must be exciting. I really enjoy cooking. Cooking? What's your favorite dish to make? I'm learning English every day. Every day? That's fantastic. The repetition isn't there because you need time. It's there because it shows you're listening. People appreciate feeling heard, and good conversations are built on listening just as much as speaking. Another common mistake is believing your answers must be long. That's not true. A simple answer followed by one extra sentence is often enough. Imagine someone asks, "What do you usually do on weekends?" You could say, "I usually spend time with my family." Then add one more idea. "We often cook together on Saturday evenings." Or, "I usually go hiking because I enjoy being outdoors." That extra sentence gives the other person something new to talk about. Without it, conversations often stop too quickly. Think of every answer as opening another small door. The more information you give, the easier it becomes for the other person to continue the conversation. Here's another simple example. Someone asks, "Do you like movies?" Instead of answering, "Yes." Try saying, "Yes, I love action movies because they're exciting." As we come to the end of today's episode, I'd like you to stop for just a moment and think about everything we've talked about together. We didn't discover a magic trick. We didn't find a secret shortcut. And we certainly didn't learn that fluency comes from memorizing thousands of words overnight. Instead, we discovered something much more powerful. Fluency is built through small actions that you repeat consistently. It's created every time you choose to listen instead of giving up. Every time you speak, even when you're not completely confident, every time you ask one more question instead of letting the conversation end. Every time you decide to practice for 20 minutes instead of waiting for the perfect day. Those small choices may not seem important today, but together they create something extraordinary. Imagine where you'll be 6 months from now if you continue practicing just a little every day. Imagine understanding podcasts that seem difficult today. Imagine watching your favorite YouTube channels without depending on subtitles. Imagine traveling to another country and confidently ordering food, asking for directions, or making new friends in English. Imagine having a conversation without constantly translating every sentence inside your head. That future is possible. Not because you're lucky, not because you're naturally talented, but because you kept showing up, one lesson at a time, one conversation at a time, one podcast at a time. Remember something very important. You don't have to become perfect. You simply have to become better than you were yesterday. Some days your progress will feel obvious. You'll understand more. You'll remember new expressions. You'll speak with greater confidence. Other days may feel more difficult. You might forget words. You might struggle to understand fast English. You might even wonder if you're improving at all. When those days arrive, don't lose confidence. Progress isn't always visible. Your brain continues learning even when you don't notice immediate results. Every minute you spend listening strengthens your ears. Every sentence you speak builds your confidence. Every mistake teaches you something valuable. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is useless. Everything becomes part of your journey. So here's a challenge I'd like to leave you with today. Tomorrow, don't study English for hours. Instead, choose one simple habit. Listen to 10 minutes of English while drinking your morning coffee. Describe your room out loud. Tell yourself about your plans for the day. Ask yourself a few simple questions and answer them in English. Or listen to this episode one more time and see how much more you understand. Remember, repetition isn't a sign that you're learning slowly. It's a sign that you're learning deeply. The more familiar English becomes, the more natural it begins to feel. And one day, without even realizing when it happened, you'll stop translating. You'll stop worrying about every grammar rule. You'll stop being afraid of making mistakes. You'll simply communicate. That's what fluency really means. Not speaking perfectly, but expressing your ideas comfortably, naturally, and confidently. Before we finish today's episode, I'd like to thank every one of you for being part of this amazing community. Whether this is your very first episode or you've been listening from the beginning, I'm grateful that you're here. Seeing so many people from around the world learning English together is truly inspiring. If today's episode helped you, even just a little, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with another English learner who could benefit from it. Learning together makes the journey even more enjoyable. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Pod English for Everyone, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new lesson. I'd also love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell me this. What topic would you like me to cover in our next episode? Maybe you'd like to practice everyday conversations. Maybe pronunciation. Maybe phrasal verbs. Maybe English for travel, work, or making friends. Your ideas help shape this channel, and there's a good chance your suggestion will become one of our next podcasts. Thank you once again for listening. Keep building your daily habits. Keep listening with curiosity. Keep speaking with confidence. And most importantly, keep believing in yourself. Because every fluent English speaker started exactly where you are today. One word, one sentence, one conversation at a time. I'm John. This has been Pod English for Everyone. Take care of yourself, keep learning every single day, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now, everyone.
Hey, thanks for being here.
If you like this episode, drop a comment and tell us what you want next.
New episodes every week. Don't miss the next one.
Hit subscribe, turn on notification.
And keep improving your English. See you next time.